We started 2025 with a heart, what our theme was for this coming year, and we said this is going to be the year of multiplication. This year, we believed God was going to multiply us as a people, as an individual, as corporately, as a church, and man, he's done it. We multiplied and went to 3 services. Come on, somebody. We multiplied our serve teams. We've multiplied resources and vision. It's been a beautiful year corporately as us as a church. But then also individually, I was asking the past few weeks for testimonies of how God has multiplied you individually or your family or your family unit. What has God done in your home? And you guys started sending testimonies in, and it's been beautiful. This series in November, I want us to go back and revisit being multiplied. What does it mean to be multiplied, or for this to be the year of multiplication? So the first place I want to begin is to understand what it means to be blessed. The blessing of multiplication, we have to understand what a blessing actually is. And let's be real, blessing is a word that we don't use outside of this building or outside of talking to other Christians, right? You're not at the water cooler after the quarterly and be like, man, what a blessing. Wasn't it such a blessing to hear Q3 numbers? Wasn't it? Your coworkers are like, why are you talking like that, What a blessing it was to have Lamar back on the field last week. You know what I'm saying? Like, what a blessing. We only talk like that to other Christians. What does a blessing actually mean? We want to start by understanding the anatomy of a blessing and why it's so important to us as believers, as human beings. We got to start at the beginning. So I want to go back and revisit what the anatomy of a blessing actually is. Number one, the anatomy of blessing, we need to remember that Yahweh is the source of true blessing. We're going to talk about what a blessing is, but we got to remember the source of the true blessing. Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 26. I love how the New King James puts it. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and all of the creeping things that creep on the earth. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image, humanity in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Verse 28, then God did what? Blessed them. Then God blessed us. He is the source of this mysterious thing called a blessing. Now, if we were to kind of pull it back and look at our everyday lives, you are always going to be faced with 2 options to obtain a blessing in this life. However you would define it, we're going to define it a little bit more clearly in a second, but you are going to be presented with 2 options. The first option to obtain a blessing is to go God's way, to hear what he says, to go in the direction that he points. And it usually involves a path that's difficult. There's some type of surrender or loss, and ultimately it leads to life. And then you have the option of picking a blessing under your own wisdom. And it usually involves a path that looks really good. There's a lot of logic. It makes a ton of sense. And it's a way that you see how things are going to work out. It's usually broad. It's a little bit easier. But ultimately, it leads to death and unblessed life. God always, this is the whole thing about the Garden of Eden. There were those 2 trees. Am I going to do it God's way, or am I going to do it my way? My way actually doesn't lead to blessing at all. It leads to death, destruction, and separation. I have to remember that Yahweh's way is the only way to true blessing. Number one, if we're going to look at what an anatomy of blessing is, we've got to remember he is the source. Number 2, you are blessed. I want you to say that out loud. I'm blessed. Not only is he the source of it, he has given it. He proclaims it over humanity. He blessed them. Let's go back to the text. Genesis 1:28 can finish it out. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, of the birds of the air, over every living thing that moves on the earth. The blessing is a very comprehensive, a very multifaceted thing that he proclaims over us. We broke it down into 4 areas. Number 1, the blessing is a partnership. God decided he wanted to partner with you with what he was doing on the earth. He decided he wanted you to be part of what he was doing on the earth. Does that blow your mind or no? Yes, you. I know you're like, no, not me, like just general, we. No, specifically, you. You woke up this morning. It was on his mind to involve you in what he wanted to do on the earth. That should blow your mind. He doesn't need to involve us. He wants to. The first part of the blessing is a partnership. He's given us rulership and responsibility. Secondly, the blessing is fruitfulness. That in him, we have a wisdom to learn how to function in this life, how to organize things, how to plow the ground, how to plant the seed, the wisdom to see that when I do this, it grows better. When I do that, it doesn't grow better. When I do this in my family, my kids flourish, and I don't do that, they don't flourish. When I do this with my time, when I rest this amount of hours, I flourish. When I live on Celsius, I don't flourish. So wisdom, to know how to function, how to be fruitful in our life. It's a part of the blessing of God. Number 3 is multiplication. This is the one we've been drilling down on for the whole year. Multiplication is about understanding he's a God of abundance. He doesn't ever just give you enough. He always gives you more than enough. And you'll be like, oh, PC, he's giving me more than enough headaches. Come on, somebody. We'll get to that in a second. He's a God of abundance, but also a God of generosity. He not only does he bring it to you, it's for the purpose of getting it through you. Fourthly and finally, the blessing is a blessing of protection. It's implied in this verse, fleshed out in the verses to come, a blessing of protection. That when you stay in proximity to him, you are under his covering. He is a defense for you. This is why we can proclaim what the prophet said, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Because I'm in proximity to him. I'm under his protection. I'm under the wings of the Almighty. The enemy can't have me. We are blessed, and that's what the blessing looks like. Number 3, the anatomy of a blessing. God's continued blessing is a byproduct of proximity and obedience. You are blessed because you are made in his image. There's nothing you can do to stop it. The continued blessing, though, is a byproduct of being in proximity to him, in obedience to him. Anybody ever been in the zone while you're vacuuming? Everybody been in the vacuum zone, right? You're just cruising. You got the flow down. You're making the lines in the carpet. You're like, bro, if this was an Olympic sport, I would be Michael Phelps. You do a little spin move to the next side. You got your AirPods on, you're rocking, and you get to a certain point and the vacuum stops. The light goes off. You turn around and the cord has come out of the wall. Have I ever been there? The cord is only so long. You have left the proximity of the power source. Some of us are out here living in the blessing. Living life as if we're God's child and everything's cool and we're not consulting him anymore about the decisions we're making. The next thing you know, we make a decision and it flops. And we turn around and we remember, oh, I stopped doing my quiet time. Oh, that's right. I stopped reading the word. Oh, I stopped asking God for his wisdom where I was going. Oh, I'm out of proximity from the source of blessing. A continued blessing is a byproduct of me staying close to the power source. You can't be protected by him when you're not under his covering. You can't partner with God when you're partnered with the enemy. You can't be fruitful when we aren't doing it his way. We cannot live in abundance when we aren't living by his principles. So we have to continually invite him in to every area and aspect of our lives. This is the power of a continued walk with Jesus over a long period of time. Because you may feel like he's involved in every area of your life. He ain't. And even if you've involved him in every area of your life, there are new depths that will come up season after season. You think he's all up in your schedule until you get someone to challenge your personal time. And you're like, oh God, that's my time. He's like, how about, what if that was my time? You might think he's all up in your finances. You're like, PC, I'm paying my tithes. I do a little Harvard house. So don't ask me for nothing else because I need some J's. I like my shoes, I don't want anything else. And God's like, what if all of that was mine? And I showed you the real way to live in generosity. And you could give up a pair of those J's and watch another family be blessed. What if that was mine? See, the power of a long, extended relationship with Jesus is not only is he in every area, he's in every depth of area of your life. So we got to keep inviting him in. Finances are blessed when we manage them his way. Relationships are blessed when we order them by God's word. Fourthly and finally, this is review. Fourthly and finally, in the anatomy of a blessing is that any area unblessed is cursed. Last week, Pastor Lloyd closed out that Angels and Demons series talking extensively about what it is to be cursed, to be under a curse, what a curse is. I had somebody ask me years ago, I always quoted from the beginning, I think it's Deuteronomy 25, if you do this, you'll be blessed, enemy will come one way and he'll leave 7 ways, you'll be the head, you'll not be the tail, and he's like, how come you don't read the second half of that chapter? I'm like, because it's depressing. If you don't do this, you'll be cursed. If you do that, you're going to be, I'm like, I don't want to read that stuff. Pastor Lori took the bull by the horns last week and spent the whole week talking about what it means to be under a curse, what a curse is, but how to break the curse. It was so powerful. You should go back and watch it. But we like to think there's a medium ground between blessed stuff and cursed stuff. And it's kind of like just stuff. No, the Bible doesn't give us that distinction. Any area that's not blessed is cursed. See, cold only exists where heat is not present. Darkness can only exist where light does not come shining through. Anywhere blessings are not present, in that vacuum, curse has to come in. And so we need to learn to live in the blessing that God has given us so that we can keep the curse at bay. So what does it mean to be cursed? We can find a contrast between the blessing and the curse. Instead of partnership, a curse is vacated responsibilities. Instead of rulership and responsibility, it's vacated responsibility. Someone not pulling their end, someone not coming through on their side, you not pulling your end and not coming through with your responsibilities. Secondly, it's all fruitless vanity instead of fruitfulness. It's all a means to your end, not God's. Thirdly, the curse, instead of being abundance and multiplication, it's scarcity. It's scarcity, the idea that there's not going to be enough. I think many of us in this room have been healed in an ongoing process that God has been healing our scarcity mentality. We've been believing the lie that the enemy has been sowing our whole life that there's not enough. You need to get yours. You need to walk over people, scratch and claw your way to get yours because you're going to run out. Hurry, hurry. That's a cursed mindset. That's a cursed way of viewing the world. I like to view the world as an abundant world, that God is going to give me more than enough. And I may not have it right here and right now, but I know he owns it all. And when he wants me to have it, he'll give it to me. Fourthly, finally, the curse is disconnection. Instead of being protected by him, we are disconnected. This is living east of Eden, outside of his protection. There is no neutral state of humanity. We are in blessing or cursing. The curse is a byproduct of being disconnected from Yahweh. Now, since I've been asking for testimonies, I've been getting all kinds of testimonies, and I want even more of them. I want to repost the link. I'd love to hear from you how God has been multiplying you through this year and blessing you. But I also have been hearing from people saying, hey, bro, this has not been my year. If this is what multiplication is, please stop. It's hurt. In fact, I have less friends today than when I started 2025. I have less money today than when I started 2025. I have less opportunities today than when I started 2025. If this is what the blessing looks like, I don't want to be blessed. Some of you have been saying this year has been difficult. But could I tell you, sometimes we face setbacks. But when we are living in the blessing of God, our setbacks are set ups for comebacks. And so I want to talk specifically today for some of you that have been living this year and it feels like one setback after another. I want to share one story that I did get, a testimony. I think it perfectly illustrates this point. It says this, in the beginning of 2024, so this is almost 2 years ago, this couple said, we suffered a miscarriage of a baby at 9 weeks, and it was gut-wrenching. However, I believe God had a plan. That miscarriage provided myself and my husband the space, as painful as it was, to show up for each other in a way that was so beautiful and so raw. We were able to see how deep our love for each other really goes. We continued to try for a baby for the next year, all 2024, with no luck. We chose to fast in the beginning of 2025 with the church, where I prayed more than I ever had. And at the end, which also happened to be a year and a day from our miscarriage, we found out we were pregnant again. We have an amazing little boy who had the honor and privilege to share the name with his father. God had us walk through a pain and grief and confusion so that this year he could give us clarity, gratitude, and a solid foundation. It gave me and my husband, who's my pillar, a man who leads us with grace and love, a man who led me back to church and helped me rebuild me when I lost who I was. I am and have been incredibly blessed by the multiplication he has provided this year. God is so good. So why do I share that story? If I were to get that testimony this time last year, they would have said, 2024 ain't my year, bro. It started bad, and it's continued to be bad. After a miscarriage at the beginning of the year, no attempt to get pregnant again worked. If I were to ask that person in November of 2024, how's your year going? They would have said, terrible. One setback after another. But I'm here to tell you, in Christ, those setbacks become set-ups for comebacks. You might be living in 2025 like they lived through 2024. You might be like, Pastor Chris, how could death be a part of God's plan? How could losing someone close to me be part of, how could losing my job be part of God's plan? How could sickness, how could losing this financial revenue come in? How could that investment falling south, how could that have been part of God's plan? I don't know. But what I do know is that he's the only one that could take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it for good. He's the only one that Romans 8:28 says that he causes all things to work together for good. He's the only one that can take a setback and make it a set up for a comeback. And so that's the person I want to speak to as we close out our message today. If that's you, you've been living in a year of multiplication, and it seems that only problems have multiplied. Only pain has multiplied. Only hardship has multiplied. There's a couple things I want you to remember. Number one, he meets our need with a seed. God responds to our needs with a seed. And you're like, dude, I don't want any more seed. I need you to fix this problem, God. I don't need any more potential. I need the real thing. See, we often get stuck in praying for the things that we need. And let's be real, we need stuff, right? I need a healing for this. I need this job interview to go well. I need my kids to act up. I need my kids to get saved. I need these things. I have real needs. But we often get stuck in our needs and forget that God responds to our needs with more seed. We forget that the purpose of the harvest is not our comfort, but our character. It's not the lack of problems that he's after, but the presence of our partnership is what he's after. And you're saying, God, I need this thing to be fixed. And he's saying, look, I've given you the seed to plant and to water and to cultivate. And guess what? It will be the solution you're looking for. But not only the solution you're looking for, you will be the answer to a prayer you didn't even know was being prayed by a person you didn't even know existed. God's multiplication comes through you to others and through others to you. That's why he designed it this way. You might be praying for it to rain blessings and it's only raining seed. And you're like, that sounds like too much work, God. He's like, well, that's just the way it's going to be. Sometimes you get the answer and it falls in your lap and it's beautiful, but 9 times out of 10, he responds to our need with the seed, which leads me to number 2. If this year of multiplication has been tough and he responds to our need with more seed, you got to keep sowing. I want you to think Finding Nemo. Just keep sowing. 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 Plow a little ground. Just keep sowing. Just keep. You just got to keep sowing. You got to learn to sow love in other people's lives. You got to learn to sow generously in other people's lives when it's what you need yourself. You need to learn to sow encouragement and forgiveness and your talents. You need to learn to sow the thing that you need. It's going to unlock you receiving the harvest when you let go and sow it into someone else's life. Galatians chapter 6 tells us this. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, who gets to decide when it's the proper time? Not you or me, him. He's the one that says, okay, now. I would love to be the one to say, okay, God, now. Anybody try to pray like that? It feels like a failed magician on stage, right? Bombing. And God's going to answer, no. Okay, hold on a second. It's going to happen. It's in there. All right, he's the one that says, now's the proper time. If we don't become weary in doing good, at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have the opportunity, what does opportunity mean? Well, I'll give financially when I have some extra money. I'll give the time when there's a little gap in my schedule. I'll give the encouragement when I'm having a good day. That's not what it means. He provides the opportunity. That means it's the right time. When is the right time to encourage someone? When you're face to face with someone who needs encouragement. When's the opportunity to sow financially into someone's life? When you're face to face with somebody who has a financial need. When's the right time to open up your schedule and sow some one-on-one quality time with someone? Not when you have the extra time, when God puts someone into your path that needs time invested. The parable of the Good Samaritan. Every person that passed the guy that was beaten half to death had the opportunity. But only one took the opportunity. This is why at the end of the parable, Jesus says, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go, love your neighbor as yourself. You know what I mean? It's the second commandment. It's so powerful. I want you to love them as yourself. And he says, well, the guy says, well, who was the neighbor? Well, the one who stopped was the neighbor. As you have opportunity, God will be the one to give you the opportunity. Let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong in the family of believers. Not just the family of believers, but we get to practice with each other so that when we leave this building, we can go and live it out outside of this place. We got to learn to just keep sowing. Number 3, lastly, if this year has been hard, remember, release is required. A surrender is necessary. You remember the message where I had the beans? I keep finding little lima beans everywhere, or whatever they were. Anybody still finding them? I got them in my shoes at home. I put on a jacket last night. I'm like, what is that? I pulled a bean out of my pocket. You receive, release. Receive, release. Some of the hardship that we've been facing is relationships that have been cut out of our lives. And we're wanting to rebuild them, and God's saying, no, I needed to prune them. Some of us have been lost opportunities and things that on the surface just doesn't make sense for us not to have in our life, but God needed to prune them to make way for a new harvest. Look, I don't have to understand why he does what he does. I just know he's the one who does it. He's the one that says at a proper time, you'll receive the harvest. And I had this visual, the first service, I was, imagining some of us holding on to things in our life that are just so important to us. And we're so close to it that we don't know why God would want to take it from us. But when you zoom out, God has this bird's eye view to see not only are we holding on to it, but it has wrapped itself around us like a snake and is choking the life out of us. And he's saying, would you let go of the thing that's trying to kill you? A release is required if we are going to trust the God of the harvest to do his job. Death is what makes resurrection possible. John 12, 23, 24, 25. Jesus replied, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly, I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it will produce many seeds. It will multiply. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it for eternity. Sometimes we have to let go, receive, release to make way for harvest. There's a prophet, Amos, at a very tough time in Israel's existence. He gets a word from the Lord and he proclaims it over Israel. And he says this, Amos 9:13. He says, behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him who sows seed. The mountains shall drip with sweet wine, and all the hills shall flow with it. See, what he's talking about is there's a season of sowing. And maybe you're in that just keep sowing season and just keep sowing season, and you got your head down and you're seeing other people blessed and they got the job, but you're like, okay, all right, Jesus, I don't know when it's going to be my turn. I'm just going to keep sowing. And that family got blessed and they're experiencing multiplication, and you really want to get envious and jealous, but you're like, you know what, God, that's your business. God bless them. I'm just going to keep sowing. I'm just going to keep sowing. And this family gets this blessing, and this person gets, oh, they're engaged. Oh, God bless them. Fantastic for you. Okay, all right. That's why I was waiting for my Boaz. You just keep sowing, and you just keep sowing. And Amos says there's going to come a time that the harvest is so great, it takes the harvester so long to pick it all up that the guy who's sowing is going to bump into the one who's still harvesting the harvest from the year before. So I want you to imagine this. The harvester is like, oh man, look at all this. God, this is such a multiplied harvest that's happening. I can't keep up with it. And it's taken him so long to harvest the blessing of God that the calendar comes all the way around to sowing season again. And the sower bumps into the harvester. What are you still doing here? He's like, look around, man. This is awesome. The treader of grapes is going to overtake the one who sows seed. He's picking up the harvest. He's clipping grapes. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Look at this. We're going to have some wine tonight. It's a grape juice, whatever. It's going to be great times, great time. And he's just singing the song. He's got his bag on, and he bumps into the guy who's what are you doing here? Man, look at all this harvest. It's sowing time. He said, no, it's harvest time. It will come all of the sudden. If you trust the process, he responds to your need with more seed. And the request is to just keep sowing. The temptation will be to keep, but he wants you to remember that release is necessary. You have to. And when we do, our 2024 might look like their 2025. And your 2025 might turn the page to a beautiful 2026. Just because it hasn't happened in your time doesn't mean it's not happening. One day, you'll turn around and you'll see all the seeds you've sown have grown up to be a beautiful harvest. I ask you to take a posture of prayer, heads bowed, eyes closed, across the house today.